So I've been playing soccer since I was like 3 years old, 3 or 4. And it is just something that I've always just loved so much. And going back to being a little child, it's you don't compare yourself to all your other friends on the team. You don't it's just how like let's go play soccer, let's just have fun. And it's just fun. And so I never had any problem with that. And then as I got a little bit older, it started to kind of cross your mind because oh, like someone scoring more goals. Maybe it's you scoring more goals than the other person, and so it's like you don't think it's a bad thing. You're just like, "Oh, I'm doing good." I don't know, whatever. But as I got older, that became more of a prevalent issue for me. But when I was about 11, I went to a BYU women's soccer game, and in Utah, for women's soccer, BYU is a very desirable place to be. A lot of girls' dreams are to play at BYU because it's such a great soccer program and it's just so cool to be there in the atmosphere of if you're a Latter-day Saint, if you're a member, the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, and just being in that culture with such a great soccer team and program is just amazing. It's honestly such a blessing. So that's why so many girls wanna go there. And so when I was 11, I went to a BYU soccer game, and I remember watching the game, and I was just having fun, but then as soon as they started playing, I remember thinking to myself vividly, I remember this so vividly. I was in the crowd and watching them play, and I said to myself I didn't wanna tell anyone this because I was just so sad about it, but I just thought to myself, "They're so good at soccer, and I'm not good at soccer." At 11 years old, I'm nothing close to as good as they are, so I will never be able to play BYU, let alone play college soccer. So I was just very like sad at that point. And looking back, it's just funny that I was comparing myself at 11 to these 20-year-old college athletes. And I I just looking back, it just was so sad because I was devastated. I came to the conclusion that because I was at 11-year-old not as good as they were, that I would never be good enough. And continuing on in my soccer journey, I just kept playing. I was like, guess I just won't get to play at BYU. And I just kept playing. And I was about 14 and I was playing for this club and it was called ECNL. And it was this oh wait, I wanna show this was me at the soccer game. This was my club or my camp coach. So for the summer camp, she was my camp coach. And so I was just a little BYU soccer fan, but in my head I was devastated because I thought I would never play college soccer. And so then continuing on my soccer career, I was about 14 and I played for this league called ECNL, and it's the best league. It's where you have to play in to go to college. That's what everyone had told me. And I was doing okay, but I was a lot smaller than everyone else and I wasn't as good as everyone else because I was a lot younger and whatnot. But right there's comparison. But anyway, I worked really hard and my coach told me if I continue to work hard that he saw a spot for me on the team. So end of the year, I worked so hard and I was crushed because I got cut from this team. And I was like at 14, almost going into ninth grade. This is when most people were committing at that time. I was just comparing myself to everyone, their journeys, looking around. I was like, I'm never gonna play college soccer now. Like it's more of a reality. I was crushed. But then I went to a different team and I realized that I was just gonna work hard and just see how far I could get. So that was just honestly such a good thing for me. And I went to a tournament with this team, the ECNL team, before I got cut, and I got some advice that I will never forget. There was a professional soccer player at the event. We had an event at the tournament, and she told me, or not me, she just told the group, but it just really resonated with me. She just said, "Never compare never compare your path to someone else. Everyone is on their own journey, everyone is on their own timetable." So, she used the example of playing for the national team. When some people grow up going to the national camps that they have all through growing up, but other people don't get called up to the national team till 23, but they're still successful. And so she just said, "You can't compare yourself." And that just resonated with me. Little did I know that that would be a big problem in my life with college soccer. But anyway, I just kept playing, and I was blessed to be have great resources to help me through that time, but also I had resources to help me in connection with BYU and whatnot and all the college coaches. So then, long story short, I was able to play at BYU, and it's my dream. And now, luckily, I am just here and having a good time, and now I'm perfect, and I don't compare myself to anyone at all. So it's perfect, and just kidding. I struggle with this every single day, and it's so hard. I compare myself to every other player, and it's so hard sometimes. And I have a mentor, and I meet with him every week. He's kind of a psychologist, therapist, mentor. And I struggle with comparison so much that almost every week I get the advice to be the best Erin I can be. So not to worry about all the new players, don't worry about what they bring to the table and what I don't, because it's so important that you be the best you can be. And for this is perfect in soccer because it just makes so much sense to me. If you are a very quick, fast 1v1, you love to score goals, and those are your skills, you can't focus on someone else's skills and try to be them because that's what you bring to the table is what your skills are. And I think many of you know where I'm going with this. I just think that it has such a great, if you compare it to life and the gospel, it just fits perfectly. And if you it's important for me to remember that everyone is their own individual person. And soccer player, for example, you're going to have your different skills and your different talents. And I think it's so important that we embrace that and that we realize that that's from God. And it makes sense for soccer, but it sometimes is a lot harder for like spiritual aspects and just in life. It's so hard. So I love this quote from President M. Russell Ballard. Because we are the spirit children of God, everyone has a divine origin, nature, and potential. Each of us is a beloved spirit son or daughter of heavenly parents. This is our identity. This is who we really are. And I just love this quote because it's who we are, and we are beloved spirit son or daughter of heavenly parents, and they know who we are, and they have blessed us with special talents, gifts, and just the person that we are specifically for us and for being able to bless other people's lives. And we can't try to be someone else. We can't try to be another player. We can't do any of that because then we will miss out on opportunities to serve others and be ourselves. And we'll feel more happy and feel like we have more self-worth and self-esteem when we do be ourselves, when we are ourselves. And it's just because we can't compare our qualities to others. Like I kind of said this earlier relating to Cody's talk. We need to we need to embrace our own qualities and not compare ourselves because oftentimes when we compare ourselves, our awesome and brilliant traits about us are diminished because we think that someone else's traits are better, even though we're just different. And I think that that's just human nature that we like love to do that, but it's hard. And I think it's just the natural man that does that for us. It's human nature almost. And it oftentimes feels like there's no answer or it's like hopeless, but the answer is Christ, and through him and his power and his love that we can face this comparison trap and we can overcome comparison and find peace. And so at BYU, I had an amazing professor, JB Haas. This is his talk from a 2019 BYU devotional, Wrestling with Comparisons, but he's just so amazing. My first semester at BYU, I wanted to take a class with my 2 older brothers, and they didn't wanna take any other religion classes because they already took them basically all of the required, like, lower level ones. So I took a higher level one, and it was really hard for me. First semester at BYU, gotta awake, like, it was hard, but having Professor Hawes was amazing, and it was just such a blessing in my life because he's just such an amazing individual. So this talk is amazing, and it is so I can't stress it enough that I would invite all of you to go read or listen to this devotional talk because it is seriously amazing. And if I could, I would just read it and that would be my talk because it's just that good. But I'm going to read this quote. Let's repeat. My contest is not with anyone else. My contest is with myself. The race is against sin, not against each other. Then we must pray with all the energy of heart to be filled with the pure love of Christ, of him who is the author and finisher of our faith. Something that just really resonates with me is that the contest is not with anyone else, it's with myself, and it's against sin, not against each other. And that just resonates with me because as an athlete and having 3 older brothers, I am very competitive. Very, very competitive, and because of this, it's helped me in soccer and helped me in other aspects, but it has framed my mind to think of almost everything as a competition, and this is just so exhausting because if you think of yourself as a competition against everyone else, you're never gonna win, and you're just gonna always feel exhausted from that, and so it's not saying to not have a competition, not have a contest, it's to reframe that contest and reframe that competition, which is just so important because I like to look at it as a challenge. It's a challenge with against Satan, it's a challenge against sin. And when you compare and you take away comparison and you look at it, that is Satan and that is something that you want to overcome, not to compare yourself to others because it doesn't help. And like as he continues, the way to do that and the way to win the contest is the pure love of Christ. We can call upon him and his power to obtain that power and that pure love, and we will be able to overcome or at least attempt to overcome the comparison and become better. And it's just so cool to me that we do have this power and that Christ will be there for us and will give us that comfort. And like I said earlier, it's exhausting. Always having that comparison running in your mind, having the worry, the anxiety, the stress just running in your mind of comparing yourself to others, it's just exhausting. And the way to help that is peace, and it's peace in Christ. And I have been so blessed to be reading through the Gospels and the New Testament, and I'm also taking a Christ in the Everlasting Gospel course right now. So it's so cool how a lot of it overlaps, but it's just brought so much peace in my life to read about Christ and his teachings, and so I just really love this scripture. John 14:27. Peace I leave with you, my peace I give unto you. Not as the world giveth, give I unto you. Let not your heart be troubled, neither let it be afraid. And I think a lot of times we are troubled and afraid of those comparisons as a whole. Honestly, leading up to this fireside, I did have some comparison in my mind and I realized that that is comparison because I was just thinking of like, what do I know, like, compared to all of these wonderful scholars and people that just know what they're doing and whatnot, but I guess I had a realization and the spirit told me that everyone brings something to the table. You don't have to be you don't have to just have this reputation, you don't have to be super smart, you don't have to do anything. Everyone brings their own thing to the table, and honestly, just that realization was huge for me, and I just think that was a tender mercy in itself, just realizing that maybe I'm confident in some things, but sometimes maybe I'm not confident in others, and recognizing that and realizing that that's comparison and that's the adversary helps you to have that peace and feel of that love of Christ. And I just love that remembering that Christ has so much love for us and God has so much love for us that when we compare ourselves to others that we'll never get the same feeling. Even if we're trying to do, like, a good comparison of well, not a good comparison, but, like, you think it's good for you because you might be better at something than someone else, like, you'll never get the same gratification, you'll never feel the same love, it's just not the right it's not the way to go because you'll never win every time, but you'll always win with God's love, and the atonement of Jesus Christ, and it's just so amazing. And it's a lot, and it's very overwhelming because everyone is on their own path. But I can't stress this enough. Everyone's relationship with God is personal, and everyone's eternal path is different. It helps me a lot when I focus on having eternal perspective. If you realize that we're all on a path to salvation, that everyone's path is gonna look different. Going back to the soccer story, I was comparing myself at 11 years old to some college players, and I thought that that meant that I would never be good. And that's silly looking back because I was 11, but when you realize that we do that often in our spiritual journeys and in our pathways of life, that it helps us to realize that we don't need to we can't compare because it's not fair to anyone. And I just want to testify that through the love of Christ and through the atonement of Christ and God's love, that we can be the best you can be the best us, I can be the best Erin that I can be, and we can bless other people's lives by using our talents and gifts and our uniqueness and individuality that God has blessed us with. And I just want to say these things in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.